June 6, 1944, near Rouen, France. The dawn sky over Normandy was a cauldron of fire and smoke, fractured by the roar of engines and the chatter of gunfire. D-Day had unleashed hell, and Lieutenant Thomas Fraser, 24, of the 334th Fighter Squadron, 4th Fighter Group, fought to keep his P-51B Mustang, serial number 4324825, aloft. Nicknamed Jerry and marked with squadron code QP-G, the fighter's Packard V-1650-3 Merlin engine sputtered, trailing a thin ribbon of black smoke through broken clouds. Fraser, disoriented in the chaos of dogfights above the invasion beaches, wrestled with the controls, his sweat-soaked flight suit clinging to his skin. The Merlin coughed, its two-stage supercharger faltering from battle damage. With no hope of reaching England, Fraser aimed for a farmer's field near Rouen, German-controlled territory. The Mustang hit the ground hard, mud and grass spraying as metal groaned. Treads scarred the earth, but the airframe held, battered but intact. Fraser stumbled from the cockpit, dazed but alive, only to face capture and a long march to a POW camp. Direct Mustang lay silent, its olive-drab paint glinting under the French sun. Within hours, German salvage teams, part of the Luftwaffe's meticulous Berge Bataillone, descended. Their efficiency was clinical. Ropes secured the airframe, trucks hauled it away, and within days, it was en route to Rechlin, the Luftwaffe's premier testing facility 100 kilometers northwest of Berlin in Mecklenburg. There, technicians transformed the American fighter, painting it with Luftwaffe codes T9 plus HK, its tail and undersides blazing RLM-04 yellow to prevent friendly fire, a red band circling the nose. This P-51B-15-NA, reborn as an enemy aircraft, joined the Wanderzirkus Rosarius, a secretive unit tasked with showcasing captured Allied planes to German pilots. Its mission, to expose the Mustang's strengths and weaknesses, forcing the Luftwaffe to confront the uncomfortable truth of American engineering prowess and their own unraveling air war. The air war's escalating stakes. By mid-1943, the Luftwaffe was bleeding. American B-17 Flying Fortresses and B-24 Liberators, escorted by P-47 Thunderbolts and P-38 Lightnings, pounded German cities and factories, their raids growing bolder. The Luftwaffe's pilots, hardened by years of combat, were skilled but overworked, their numbers dwindling under relentless Allied pressure. Intelligence on Allied aircraft was patchy. Combat reports from dogfights were chaotic, often exaggerating speeds or misjudging ranges. A Bf-109 pilot might claim a P-47 was sluggish at altitude, while another swore it outclimbed his FW-190. Luftwaffe commanders tasked with defending the Reich needed hard data, not anecdotes. Hauptmann Theodor Rosarius, a 38-year-old Luftwaffe officer with a keen intellect and a keen knack for organization, saw the problem clearly. German pilots trained against their own aircraft, Bf-109s and FW-190s, learning tactics suited for mirror-image foes. Allied fighters, however, played a different game. Long-range escorts, high-altitude performance, and energy-based tactics that exploited speed and climb. In 1943, under orders from General der Jagdflieger Adolf Galland, Rosarius formed the Wanderzirkus Rosarius, officially the second Staffel of the Verband Oberkommando der Luftwaffe. This unit collected repairable Allied aircraft from crash sites across occupied Europe, France, Italy, the Eastern Front, and restored them for testing and demonstration. The goal was to give frontline pilots hands-on experience, inspecting, observing, and sometimes flying captured planes in mock combat to uncover their strengths and exploit their weaknesses. The program was a response to a brutal reality. German pilots, often with thousands of hours, faced Allied aircraft with unknown capabilities. The P-51 Mustang, entering service in late 1943, was an enigma. Its range, speed, and altitude performance hinted at a game-changer. But the Luftwaffe intelligence lacked specifics.
Salvage and resurrection.
Fraser's Mustang landed in German hands at a critical juncture. By 1944, the Luftwaffe's salvage operations were a well-oiled machine. Bergbataillon, specialized recovery units, operated across occupied Europe, securing crash sites with near-surgical precision. Teams arrived within hours, often under fire, to assess wrecks. Non-repairable aircraft were stripped for parts. Viable ones, like Fraser's P-51B, were loaded onto flatbeds and shipped to Rechlin, the Luftwaffe's testing hub since 1936. Nestled near Lake Müritz, Rechlin's sprawling complex included workshops, test ranges, and runways designed for evaluating German and captured aircraft. Its technicians were masters of improvisation, working without Allied manuals or factory parts. Restoring Jerry was a Herculean task. The P-51B-15-NA, built by North American Aviation, was a technological marvel. 9,200 pounds empty, 37-foot wingspan, powered by a 1490-horsepower Packard V1650 Merlin with a two-stage, two-speed supercharger. Battle damage had mangled its cooling system and perforated a wing, while the crash landing buckled a landing gear strut. Technicians cannibalized parts from other P-51 wrecks, radiators, fuel pumps, control cables scattered across Europe. The Merlin engine, a license-built Rolls-Royce Merlin 63, required meticulous rebuilding. Its supercharger, with an intercooler for high-altitude efficiency, was a puzzle. German engineers, used to single-stage DB605 engines, marveled at its complexity. The four .5 caliber Browning M2 machine guns, 2 per wing, were removed, replaced with ballast to maintain the center of gravity, per Luftwaffe rules against arming captured aircraft. Hydraulic lines were pressure tested, fuel tanks patched to prevent leaks, and the Razorback canopy, its framed design limiting rear visibility compared to the later P-51D's bubble canopy, was carefully repaired. The airframe's laminar flow wing, based on NACA airfoils, was inspected for structural integrity, its smooth surfaces a contrast to the rivet-heavy BF-109. After 6 weeks of grueling work in Rechlin's workshops, reeking of oil and metal shavings, the Mustang was flight-ready. Painted with T9 plus HK codes, yellow undersides, and a red noseband, it looked alien among BF-109s and FW-190s. The Mustang's stunning performance. German test pilots, raised on propaganda that dismissed American aircraft as mass-produced junk, approached the Mustang with professional curiosity and deep skepticism. The BF-109's cockpit was a claustrophobic cage, its canopy frames obstructing views. The FW-190's was roomier, but maintenance-heavy, its radial engine a nightmare to service in the field. Climbing into the P-51B, pilots were struck by its ergonomic brilliance. The cockpit was spacious, controls intuitively placed, throttle, stick, and rudder pedals within easy reach. Gauges, fuel, oil pressure, altimeter, were clearly marked, grouped logically, reducing pilot workload. The seat, padded for multi-hour missions, contrasted with the BF-109's Spartan design, where fatigue set in after an hour. On Rechlin's runway, the Mustang came alive. Oberleutnant Hans Werner Lürke, a veteran test pilot, advanced the throttle. The Merlin roared, its 1490 horsepower surging smoothly, the four-bladed Hamilton standard propeller slicing the air. The takeoff roll was startlingly brief, 800 feet compared to the BF-109's 1,000, testament to the engine's power and the wing's low drag. Airborne, the Mustang was a revelation. Controls were harmonized. Ailerons, elevators, and rudders responded crisply, forces balanced across speeds. At 200 miles per hour, the stick was light but precise. At 400 miles per hour, it stiffened predictably, never heavy. Roll rate approached the FW-190's 160 degrees per second, outpacing the BF-109's sluggish 120 degrees, enabling rapid reversals in combat. Climb tests were alarming. The P-51B sustained 3,800 feet per minute to 30,000 feet,
where the Merlin's two-stage supercharger thrived, delivering 1,100 horsepower while German engines gasped. Speed trials clocked 440 miles per hour at 25,000 feet, surpassing the Bf-109G's 386 miles per hour and FW-190A's 408 miles per hour. The laminar flow wing, despite rivets and paint disrupting ideal flow, minimized drag, boosting efficiency. Dive performance was equally stunning. The Mustang reached 500 miles per hour without flutter or control lockup, unlike the Bf-109, which stiffened dangerously past 450 miles per hour. Pilots could pull out of steep dives with minimal effort, the airframe rock solid. Turn performance was complex. The Bf-109's leading-edge slats allowed tighter turns at low speeds, stalling later than the Mustang's wing. But the P-51's speed and climb let pilots avoid sustained turns, favoring energy tactics. Zoom climbs to trade speed for altitude, dives to regain speed, extensions to disengage. Lurke noted in his report, the Mustang dictates terms. It engages when it wants, escapes when it doesn't.
Wanderzirkus Rosarius on tour. In late 1944, as Allied bombers hammered Germany, the Wanderzirkus Rosarius took T-9 plus HK on a grueling tour of Luftwaffe bases. Jagdgeschwader 1, JG-26, JG-53, and others. At each stop, the Mustang taxied past rows of Bf-109s and FW-190s, its yellow undersides and red nosebands surreal against German camouflage. Pilots, bleary from endless sorties, gathered on muddy airfields, cigarettes glowing in the dusk. Demonstrations began with high-speed passes at 50 feet, the Merlin's roar shaking the ground, clocking 440 miles per hour. Test pilots climbed to 30,000 feet, showcasing the Mustang's high-altitude dominance, then executed aileron rolls, the wings snapping through 360 degrees in seconds. Mock dogfights were the centerpiece. At a JG-1 airfield near Bremen, Oberstleutnant Heinz Bär, a 200-kill ace, flew an FW-190A8 against the Mustang. The P-51's pilot, a Rechlin veteran, used speed and climb to outmaneuver Bär, extending away when Bär tried to force a turning fight. Bär landed, exasperated. "It's too fast, too high, we can't catch it unless it makes a mistake." Ground inspections followed, pilots crowding the Mustang, running hands over its smooth wings, peering into the cockpit. Questions flew. How does it climb so well? What's the range? Answers, 3,800 feet per minute, 1,600 miles with drop tanks, drew grim silence. The psychological impact was crushing. German pilots, fed years of propaganda about American inferiority, saw undeniable proof of the Mustang's superiority. Its range meant B-17s were escorted from England to Berlin and back, eliminating the Luftwaffe's chance to strike unprotected bombers. High-altitude performance gave the Mustangs the edge where German fighters faltered. At a JG-26 briefing, a young lieutenant whispered, "If they have thousands of these, we're done." Engineering marvels uncovered. At Rechlin and Göttingen, German engineers dissected the Mustang with forensic precision. The laminar flow wing, based on NACA 230 series airfoils, was a masterpiece, generating lift with minimal drag despite operational wear, rivets, paint, and bullet patches. The Merlin's two-stage supercharger with its intercooler maintained 1,100 horsepower at 30,000 feet, where the Bf-109's DB605 lost 30% of its power. Fuel capacity, 269 gallons internal, 150 more in drop tanks, enabled 8-hour missions, dwarfing the FW-190's 90-minute limit. Hydraulic systems were robust, designed for field repairs, unlike the Bf-109's temperamental actuators. American manufacturing stunned. High-grade aluminum, chromium-plated steels, and reliable rubber compounds ensured durability without excessive weight. U.S. assembly lines, using modular construction, produced 500 P-51s monthly by late 1944, peaking at 881 in January 1945. German factories, battered by bombing, relied on dispersed sites, forced labor,
and substandard materials, building 200 to 300 BF-109s and FW-190s monthly with inconsistent quality. The Mustang's engine cowling with quick-release panels allowed easy access for maintenance, while German aircraft required hours of disassembly. Engineers noted the P-51's design prioritized survivability. Its airframe absorbed battle damage, bullet holes, shrapnel, that would cripple lighter German fighters. The Merlin's reliability, with consistent tolerances across thousands of units, contrasted with the DB605's late-war issues. Substitute alloys and rushed assembly led to failures. The Mustang's radio, a crystal-clear SCR-522, outperformed German sets, plagued by static and drift.
The Luftwaffe's collapse. The Wanderzirkus's demonstrations, while tactically brilliant, couldn't halt the Luftwaffe's collapse. By 1944, fuel shortages slashed training to 80 to 100 hours for new pilots, compared to American pilots' 200 to 400 hours, including instrument and combat training. Veterans like Bär were irreplaceable, but attrition was merciless. Hundreds of pilots lost monthly. Novices, with barely 10 hours in BF-109s, survived a handful of missions. Allied numerical superiority was staggering. 5,000-plus Mustangs, Thunderbolts, and Spitfires faced 1,500 German fighters by late 1944. The Mustang's strategic impact was catastrophic for the Luftwaffe. Pre-1944, German fighters waited out short-range escorts like P-47s, then struck bombers. The P-51's 1,600-mile range eliminated this window, forcing Luftwaffe pilots to fight through escorts, increasing losses. At 25,000 to 30,000 feet, where B-17s operated, Mustangs dominated, their speed and maneuverability unmatched. German designs, FW-190D, Te-152, and Me-262 jets showed promise but arrived too late. The Me-262, hitting 540 miles per hour, was deadly but plagued by unreliable Jumo 004 engines, fuel scarcity, and vulnerable runways. Only 300 saw combat, too few to matter. Legends and losses. T9 plus HK toured until December 10, 1944, when it was lost with Oberleutnant Hans Leopold, likely to an Allied raid or crash during a demonstration. At least two other P-51s, T9 plus CK and T9 plus HK, served the Wanderzirkus, training pilots at bases like Neupen, where Hungarian allies learned to counter Mustangs with FW-190s. Tactics emphasized low-speed turns, where German fighters held a slight edge, but avoiding high-altitude fights was nearly impossible. Some captured P-51s were destroyed by Allies or Germans to prevent recapture. Others vanished in the war's chaotic end. The program's legacy is bittersweet. It showcased German professionalism, turning wrecks into intelligence gold. Pilots learned to target the Mustang's fuel tanks or force low-altitude fights, but these tactics couldn't offset overwhelming disadvantages. The Mustang demolished propaganda about American inferiority. Its laminar flow wing, Merlin engine, and modular design influenced post-war fighters like the F-86 Sabre. Oberst Walter Dahl, in his memoir, described the eerie sight of T9 plus HK among German planes, admitting its tactical value, but lamenting the Luftwaffe's collapse. The human toll. The Mustang's revelations crushed morale. German pilots, once confident in their BF-109s and FW-190s, faced a grim truth. Their aircraft were outclassed in speed, range, and altitude. At a JG-53 briefing, a pilot muttered, "We're fighting with one hand tied." The Wanderzirkus's mock dogfights, meant to educate, often demoralized. Veterans like Bär, who flew T9 plus HK, respected its engineering but knew it signaled defeat. Young pilots, barely trained, faced veteran Americans in superior machines, their survival odds plummeting. American pilots, by contrast, flew with confidence. The Mustang's ease of handling, forgiving controls, predictable stalls let average pilots perform well, while aces like Major George Preddy, 27 kills, exploited its full potential.
U.S. ground crews with ample spares and manuals kept Mustangs flying, while German mechanics struggled with makeshift parts and bombed supply lines. The broader impact. The Mustang reshaped the air war. Before 1944, bomber losses, up to 20% per mission, forced the Allies to pause deep raids. The P-51's arrival changed everything, escorting B-17s to Berlin and back, reducing losses to 5%. German industry, hammered by bombs, couldn't recover. The Luftwaffe, bled dry, fielded 500 fighters by March 1945 against 10,000 Allied aircraft. The Me-262, despite its speed, consumed 500 gallons of fuel per sortie, unsustainable when Germany had weeks' supply left. Fraser's Mustang, from a ruined field to Rechlin's runways, was more than a captured prize. It was a mirror reflecting American industrial might. 15,000 P-51s built, compared to 33,000 Bf-109s over a decade. Its design, aerodynamic efficiency, robust systems, mass-producible components set up benchmark. German engineers studying T9 plus HK recognized a philosophy prioritizing mission effectiveness over theoretical maxima. The P-51 sacrificed tight turns for range and speed, a choice that won the air war.
Legacy of Revelation. The Wanderzirkus Rosarius was a testament to German professionalism in extremis. Even as fuel dwindled, airfields burned, and pilots fell, it delivered tactical insights. But knowledge couldn't bridge the gap. American production, training, and resources overwhelmed German courage. The Mustang, a symbol of ingenuity, forced pilots like Lurka to admit, "We'd never seen anything like it." Its performance, 440 miles per hour, 1,600-mile range, 30,000-foot ceiling, wasn't just technical, it was strategic, enabling the Allies' relentless bombing campaign. Post-war, the P-51's influence endured. Its wing design informed jet fighters. Its production methods shaped modern aerospace. German pilots' memoirs, like Dahl's, recall the Wanderzirkus with grudging respect, acknowledging American engineering's triumph. Fraser, liberated in 1945, learned his Mustang had flown for the enemy, a twist he found darkly ironic. From a French field to Luftwaffe bases, Jerry exposed the truth. The Allies had built a machine that not only won battles, but broke the Luftwaffe's spirit, paving the way for victory in the skies.